It begins with a whisper in the dark and ends with a name we still don't know. California, late 1960s. The summer of love had faded into something colder. The streets of San Francisco were alive with music, protest, and change. But in the shadows, something else was stirring. A predator. A man who would taunt the police, terrify the public, and turn murder into a twisted game. He called himself the Zodiac. Between December 1968 and October 1969, 5 people were confirmed dead. 2 more barely survived. But the killer claimed many more. He didn't just kill, he wrote. Letters, ciphers, threats, mailed to newspapers, demanding they be printed for the world to see. He wanted attention, he wanted fear, and he got both. Our story begins on a cold night, December 20th, 1968. 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen were high school sweethearts. That night, they drove out to Lake Herman Road, a quiet lover's lane on the outskirts of Benicia. It was supposed to be a simple date, a little music, a little privacy. But sometime after 11 p.m., another car pulled up beside them. The driver stepped out, no words, just gunfire. David was shot in the head. Betty Lou ran, but 6 bullets tore through the night, 5 hitting her in the back. She fell just feet from the road. There were no witnesses, no fingerprints, no motive. Just 2 teenagers dead, and a community left in shock. At the time, police thought it was the work of a madman. They had no idea. It was only the beginning. And if you're just joining us on this journey into one of America's most chilling unsolved cases, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because what comes next will take us deeper into the mind of a killer who played with the world like it was his personal chessboard. July 4th, 1969. Fireworks lit up the California sky, but in Vallejo, another kind of explosion was about to shatter the night. Darlene Ferrin, 22, was a young mother, vibrant and well-liked. That evening, she picked up her friend Michael Majot, 19, and drove to Blue Rock Springs Park, a quiet spot where couples often went to talk. Just before midnight, a car pulled in behind them. The driver left, then returned minutes later. This time, he stepped out, flashlight in one hand, gun in the other. Without warning, he opened fire. Michael was hit in the face, neck, and chest, but somehow survived. Darlene was struck multiple times and died before help could arrive. 40 minutes later, the Vallejo Police Department's phone rang. A calm male voice confessed to the shooting and to the murders on Lake Herman Road. He even gave directions to the crime scene. The call was traced to a payphone just blocks from the police station. 3 weeks later, the San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco Examiner, and Vallejo Times-Herald each received a letter. Inside, a chilling confession, details only the killer could know, and a strange cipher made of symbols, circles, and triangles. The writer demanded the ciphers be printed on the front page, or he would kill again. He signed the letter with a symbol, a circle with a cross through it. The press ran the letters. The public was terrified. Amateur codebreakers and professional cryptographers alike tried to crack the cipher. Days later, a schoolteacher and his wife solved it. The message was as disturbing as it was senseless. I like killing people because it is so much fun. It ended with a taunt. No name, no identity. Then came September 27th, 1969. Lake Berryessa. College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking by the water when a man approached. He wore a black hood, sunglasses, and a bib-like chest piece marked with the Zodiac symbol. He carried a gun and pre-cut lengths of rope. He told them he was an escaped convict who needed their car. Then he tied them up. Without warning, he pulled a knife and stabbed them repeatedly. Cecilia died 2 days later. Brian survived and gave police a detailed description of the killer's bizarre outfit. Hours after the attack, another call came to police. Same calm voice, same confession. The Zodiac wasn't just killing, he was performing, and the audience was all of California. October 11th, 1969. San Francisco streets were quieting down for the night. In the upscale Presidio Heights neighborhood, a yellow taxicab pulled to the curb at the corner of Washington and Cherry. Behind the wheel was Paul Stine, 29 years old, a husband, a student, and working nights to make ends meet. At 9:55 p.m., a man climbed into the cab. The fare was supposed to end at Washington and Maple, but for reasons we may never know, the cab stopped 1 block further. In the next moments, the passenger pulled a gun and shot Paul Stine in the head. This was no lover's lane, no remote lake. This was a residential street in the heart of San Francisco, and the killer didn't run. He calmly wiped down the cab, tore away a piece of Stine's blood-stained shirt, and walked away into the night. 3 teenagers watching from an upstairs window saw it all and called police. A patrol car responded quickly. Officers Donald Folk and Eric Zelms spotted a white male, about 35 to 45 years old, stocky build, walking casually just blocks from the crime scene. But due to a dispatcher's error, describing the suspect as a black male, they let him pass. Days later, the San Francisco Chronicle received another letter. This time, it included the torn piece of Paul Stine's shirt, proof beyond doubt that the writer was the killer. The letter mocked police, claiming they had spoken to him that very night. He threatened to shoot school children from a bus. The city was on edge. Parents kept kids home. Police presence surged. The Zodiac's letters became more elaborate, filled with cryptic symbols, diagrams, and bizarre ramblings. He seemed to thrive on the fear he created, feeding off the headlines. Every time the public's attention began to fade, another letter would arrive, and the nightmare would start again. By now, the Zodiac had transformed from a faceless killer into a cultural terror, a man who could strike anywhere, at any time, and vanish without a trace. By late 1969, the Zodiac had become more than a killer. He was a phantom. Every letter, every cipher, every phone call felt like a move in a game only he understood. And police were always one step behind. Investigators from multiple jurisdictions, Vallejo, Napa County, San Francisco, were now working together, sharing evidence, chasing tips. The FBI joined in. But the Zodiac's crimes spanned different counties, each with its own procedures, its own priorities. Coordination was slow. Then came the suspects. The most infamous was Arthur Lee Allen, a former school teacher with a troubling history. In 1971, a friend told police Allen had spoken about wanting to kill couples, use a flashlight on a gun, and called himself Zodiac. He owned a Zodiac brand watch with the same cross-circle logo. He lived near the Vallejo crime scenes, And yet, handwriting experts said his writing didn't match the letters. Fingerprints didn't match either. Allen was questioned, searched, even tailed for years, but never charged. There were others. Rick Marshall, a film projectionist with a love for ciphers. Lawrence Kane, a man with memory problems and a history of stalking women. Richard Gajkowski, a journalist whose appearance resembled police sketches. Each suspect had pieces that seemed to fit, but never the whole puzzle. The problem was, the Zodiac's letters were both a blessing and a curse. They gave investigators clues, but also endless noise. Hoax letters poured in from copycats. Tips came from psychics, cranks, and people convinced their neighbor, ex-husband, or co-worker was the killer. Detectives had to sift through it all, knowing the real Zodiac might be watching them do it. And then, the trail began to cool. After 1974, the letters stopped. Or at least, the ones believed to be genuine. The murders, at least the confirmed ones, ended. But the fear lingered. The Zodiac had slipped back into the shadows. And the question that haunted everyone, police, journalists, the public, was simple. Had he stopped? Or was he still out there, blending in, living an ordinary life, while carrying the memory of every scream, every shot, every headline he'd created? By the mid-1970s, the Zodiac's voice had gone quiet. No more confirmed murders. No more letters that experts could agree were truly his. But the damage was done, and the legend was already cemented. For investigators, the silence was maddening. Without new crimes, there was nothing fresh to chase. The case files grew dusty, but they never closed. Detectives retired. New ones took their place, each inheriting the same unsolved puzzle. Arthur Lee Allen remained the prime suspect for decades. In 1991, Vallejo police searched his home again, seizing weapons, writings, and tapes. But when Allen died in 1992, no charges had ever been filed. In 2002, DNA from saliva on Zodiac letters was compared to Allen's. No match. The case was back to square one. And yet, the Zodiac never really left. He lived on in headlines, in books, in films. His ciphers still taunted amateur sleuths around the world. In 2020, one of his most famous unsolved codes, the 340 cipher, was finally cracked by a team of private citizens. The message? Another rambling denial of fear, another refusal to reveal his name. Even in defeat, he kept his mask. The cultural impact was enormous. The Zodiac became a symbol of the faceless killer, the one who could be anyone. He influenced movies, inspired copycats, and haunted the collective memory of California. For those who lived through it, the fear was real, and it never fully faded. Today, the Zodiac case remains open in multiple jurisdictions. Advances in DNA technology and forensic genealogy have given hope that one day, the name behind the symbol will be revealed. But until that day comes, the Zodiac Killer exists in a strange limbo, part history, part myth, part unsolved riddle. And maybe that's exactly how he wanted it, because in the end, the Zodiac's greatest weapon wasn't his gun. It was the fear that he could still be out there, watching, waiting, smiling at the chaos he left behind. If you've been gripped by this journey into one of America's most chilling, unsolved mysteries, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because there are more stories like this, more shadows to explore, and more truths waiting to be uncovered.